Hey everyone, Mario again, coming at you another movie review. Today I'm reviewing a film that I just watched. I've been meaning to watch it for a while, and actually when I first saw the trailer I was thinking of seeing it in theaters. I didn't because of scheduling reasons and all that, and just finally watched it. And I have to say, after watching it, I'm actually glad, kinda now, I didn't go and see it in theaters. At least, mainstream theaters. If I'd gone to the cheap theater to watch it, I wouldn't have been that disappointed. I wouldn't have found it a waste of that much money, but let's just say I'm glad I decided not to go. As you can already tell what the title up there is. It is the Will Smith and Jaden Smith starred sci-fi action adventure film directed by M. Night Shyamalan, After Earth. Now, this film has a 5.0 on IMDb, has a 39% with the audience and 11% with the critics. And I have to say, after watching that, I could see why overall that's what its score is. Because more or less, I just say this movie overall is meh. I mean, it has a few interesting things I like, but overall it could have been better, which I will get to in more detail later why. When compared to M. Night's previous films, I probably will say this is, of the ones I don't hate, because the only one of his films I hate is Airbender, but of the ones I don't hate, this is probably my least, the one I'd rank right above. From least favorite to favorite, I'd probably rank them Last Airbender, After Earth, The Village, The Happening, either Lady in the Water or Signs. After rewatch them, decide which one I like more. Then The Sixth Sense, then Unbreakable. I haven't seen the other two, so I can't put them in the thing, but this is what the consensus on Rotten Tomatoes is about the film. After Earth is a dull, ploddingly paced exercise in sentimental sci-fi, and the latest setback for director M. Night Shyamalan's once promising career. I would say it's a little bit dull, mostly because of the fact that Smith's son is playing his son in the movie. The pace is a little weird at times, especially dialogue scenes, which is like, okay, is this his acting choice, or is this how M. Night told him to do it? I mean, even if this was staged, this would be weird. And overall, it is kind of a setback, especially because the trailer looked like this might be M. Night's big return after the last couple films. It didn't do so well, but it's kind of worth one watch. Now, the production of this film started with Will Smith. He conceived the story idea when he watched the show I Shouldn't Be Alive, which I've seen a couple episodes of that show. It's an interesting show. He was watching it with his brother-in-law, Caleb Pinkett. And originally it was not a sci-fi story, but it was a story about a father and son crashing their car in the mountains of some remote region where the son has to go out and get help for his father. Which I have to say, that might have actually been a better story overall, because it would have been simpler. Probably would have been something that Smith and his son could have done easier. It wouldn't have been as much of, it wouldn't have cost as much to make, and might have also been a better film overall. But alas, too late. Never know, they could still make it. I'd love to see Smith in a film like this, even though it does kind of waste his talent a little bit. But eventually, Smith changed the setting to the future, and it got a higher budget. And apparently, it's also intended to be the first film in a trilogy. And I'm gonna guess from how much it made, probably not gonna see that happen. It was made for 130 million, but it made 243, almost 244 million. Granted, it made back its money, but I don't think with that much of a win overall it's going to get a sequel, especially with the critical reaction, but you never know. And Smith had the script written by Gary Whitta, who is, checking the screenplay, who is credited, who, by the way, also wrote the script for Book of Eli, which, even though I haven't seen that film in a couple years, just from the first view alone, I could say that is a vastly better film, even if some people go, what? At the plot twist, but another day, another video. And he basically had him write with a simple logline for a film. Father and son crash land on Earth 1,000 years after it had been abandoned by humankind. Whitta wrote it, and of course we got this. And a month after Airbender was released, Smith contacted M. Night Shyamalan, wishing him a happy birthday, and he also said he wanted him to direct the film. Because apparently several years ago, Smith and Shyamalan had planned to work on a film, but it never worked out. And after reading the script, Shyamalan was impressed enough that he decided to sign on. at that point the film was called 1000 AE, which After Earth I think is probably a better idea for a title. Then of course the film got made. That's about all I know about it. Only other thing I know is that Shyamalan did start, I guess he did add some, either he helped with the rewriting process or added a few bits here or there, because it also says the screenplay was by him, which I want to know how late in the process this happened, because I remember looking at the initial trailers, I never saw M. Night's name on the film except for the directing thing, and it kind of looked like this would be the first film that he released, that he didn't have anything to do with the writing. Which it makes me wonder, was it later in the process when they did pickups or something that he added enough to get warranted for a for it to warrant, excuse me, a screenwriting credit? Be an interesting thing to ask. I don't know, maybe one day I'll just rent, maybe one day if I come across special features on the DVD or something, I'll answer. But apparently there's a controversy about the film having perceived Scientology themes. I don't know if Smith is a confirmed Scientology guy like John Travolta and Tom Cruise are, but if I don't really know much about Scientology, you know, what they actually believe in, other than the fact I technically don't consider Scientology a religion because of how they act, you know, outside of the faith and all that, you know, suing people for saying stuff, you know, having to sign over property, how much that book costs and all that. And of course some of their legal tactics, you know, like bullying people, all the other stuff, but that's another day, another video. And at the end of the day, I just consider it a cult, not a religion. But getting on to it, I don't really see that some of this stuff, someone who knows more about Scientology than I do probably will see that, but I just saw a sci-fi film. Of course, the other allegation about the film I can see, and that's nepotism allegations, and that's coming from the fact that Will Smith is starring in the film with his son. Now, Jaden Smith, I could see why his father wants to get him in it, you know, bring him into the family business, acting, because you know a lot of families have done that. You know, a lot of actors, their sons have followed in, and daughters, excuse me, have followed in their footsteps. But with Jaden, I don't really see much about him. I mean, I heard he was decent in Pursuit of Happyness. Day the Earth Stood Still, I hear he's meh. Karate Kid, I also hear he's decent in. But in this film, it's like, whoa, it's like, I look at it and I go, did Jaden even acting? It sounds, there's only a couple scenes I thought he was pretty good in. Other than that, it seemed more like the writing was making up for his acting. Now, Will Smith, even though he didn't really emote as much in the film as he could, I thought he did a decent job, because we know from watching his other movies that he can act. Even watching Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, you can tell that he acts, even though sometimes he's overacting a little bit, but I think it kind of fits the scene, like when they crash in the car. As God is my witness, I'll be at church Thursday, Sunday morning. You know, like that. I probably said it wrong, but I think you get the gist. Now here, he's very stoic in how he says his lines. There's a couple times where he is emoting, like early on in the film where he's giving his son an order. Are you telling me or are you asking me? Asking. Good. Permission denied. Now sit down. Yeah, I didn't do it properly, but I think you get the gist of it. Now, I can see him being stoic at times throughout the film, but I think as the film goes on, he probably should emote more, especially the part of the film where the character's starting to get delirious. But that's how I would have approached it. Smith, you know, he's a good actor, so I'm not going to really question it, even though I do kind of disagree with it a little bit, but it's passable, but not his best performance. I'll say probably his best performance in the last couple years I've watched is Men in Black 3. At least he was more entertaining there than here. Anyway, the rest of the cast, like the one that plays the wife of Will Smith's character, she did a decent job, just like the actress that played his older deceased daughter. She did a decent job. Now, the plot of the film is it takes place in a future where an environmental cataclysm forces the human race to abandon Earth and settle on a new world called Nova Prime. Now, it never states exactly what this catastrophe is, but it gives enough of a vague hint to let us know it's probably something to do with pollution, which, technically speaking, is a very real problem. If you think about it, in the distant future, humans might eventually have to abandon Earth, or go through rapid evolution in order to survive something like that. So us having to abandon our planet is kind of a real scenario. And that's, I guess, part of the reason I like the film, like part of the film, is that it makes me think a little bit of that, like, would something like this happen, would something like this happen if we had to do it. Now we cut to 1,000 years later, where the United Ranger Corps, which is a peacekeeping military group that was founded to help evacuate humans from Earth, they are commanded by a General Cypher Rage, who is played by Will Smith. And he does, like I said, he does an okay job. They come into contact with alien creatures who intend to conquer Nova Prime. And the funny thing about these creatures is they cannot see, but they can smell fear, basically, because of pheromones, which I think is an interesting idea for a creature that's blind. And of course, the Rangers struggle with them until the General figures out how to basically become invisible. It's a technique called ghosting, where you basically suppress fear to the point where your pheromones no longer come out. I know it's a little weird and all that, but it's sci-fi, so you gotta leave your brain a little bit at the door. But I find it a kind of believable thing for a sci-fi film. And also, you never know, all creatures are evolving. I don't know, it could be a mutation that humans on the new environment are getting. I don't know. Now, Cypher's son, Kitai, Smith's son, he wants to be a ranger like his father, but he is denied the promotion. But because of his mother, he is allowed to go on a mission with his father, which his father is going to retire afterwards, or intends to. Now, during a space flight, they enter an asteroid shower, and it forces them to transport through a wormhole to safety, and they clash. Yeah, clash, the only band that matters. They crash land on the now quarantined Earth. And of course, only Kitai and his father survive, and the ship is split in two. They land in one part, but a rescue beacon was in the other part. So now Kitai has to travel 100 kilometers to the other half of the ship and get the beacon, because his father has broken his leg in the crash. Now, this is where the film goes into the part where it's like, oh, it's a little bit, the first part of the film you can really deal with, because it's Smith and his son, you know, interacting with other characters, so makes you get a little bit into it. But when it's Kitai and his father separated, and it's just long dialogue scenes and then occasional action scenes that pump you up a little bit, it's like, okay, this is where you can see that they really shouldn't have cast Will Smith's son in this film. Will Smith, okay, if he had been him staying in the film, good, but they could have gotten a more experienced child actor to do it, because I know that there are some child actors that are very good. Case in point, granted, not a male actor, but Chloe Grace Moretz. Like, it's the first time I saw her as Hit Girl, I knew she was a good actress and that she would go into bigger and better things, and she has been doing good. And like I said in another video, I could see her one day being nominated for an Oscar if she stays in acting. But with Jaden Smith, unless he really does take acting lessons and learns from watching his father, I don't see his career going much. But like I said, I haven't seen the two roles that he's usually praised for, but after I do, we'll just see what my opinions are. But just going off of this film, and a little bit of Day-Day still that I have seen, I think he's not that very good of an actor. Now, there are some moments in the film where he does emote in a semi-believable manner, but one of the scenes it reminded me, and this is not in a good way, by the way, of Hayden Christensen. I'm like, did Will Smith give birth to the Chosen One? Oh, wait a minute. Did he sire the Chosen One? That'd be the correct phrase. Now, Earth in the future, like, you could tell that in the 1,000 years since humans have left, that whatever catastrophe happened, it has subsided and Earth is now starting to be reclaimed by nature. I wasn't looking during most of the crash sequence, so I don't know where on the planet they did land. It kind of looks maybe Africa or maybe America, and apes just managed to get there somehow or something. 1,000 years could have happened. But the forest scenes and stuff, the scenery looks nice. A lot of the animals are CGI, like I kind of expected, but you can tell it's CGI, but it's kind of beautiful. I mean, it's a lot better than the CGI for Avatar. That's, at least in my opinion, it is. And it kind of gave me a little bit of hope that as technology gets better, CGI will look better, and hopefully it will get so photorealistic that even though you still be able to tell it's CGI, it won't be that distracting. You know, kind of in the same manner that sometimes you can tell a practical effect is a practical effect. Case in point, that scene in Total Recall where Arnold comes out of the suit, you can tell it's an animatronic headed before it cuts away, but it has a charm to it. Hopefully CGI one day will have that same charm, just in a different manner. Probably, but it probably won't be as charmful as practical effects. At least we'll just see. Now, we see animals and all that. You know, we see baboons, which they act the way we would expect baboons to act. We see a type of bird that looks like an eagle, or maybe an eagle and a condor, I don't know. We see like a gliding snake, which I think there is a gliding snake in real life, but I know it doesn't probably have as many gliding things like that, which was a little interesting design. It's just a quick little shot. And and then some cat thing, which is interesting. And that's basically all the animals we see, except for a member of that species that I mentioned earlier that they were carrying with them for a testing thing. Which it might disappoint some people, especially because that thing we see in the trailer, all animals on this planet have evolved to kill humans. But it didn't really bother me for one main reason. Humans are originally from Earth, meaning our ancestors, back before we had very advanced technology, had to deal with some of these creatures in the wild. So it makes sense that 1,000 years without humans, they would evolve even further, and coming into contact with humans again, they wouldn't know what humans are, so they'd be hostile to them, just as they were to our ancestors. But the difference in evolution would cause probably some of them to be better at killing humans, some to be about the same. Because the only thing that seemed, the birds have gotten bigger. It makes sense. There was a species of birds like that in the past, so it makes sense. Maybe without humans, a couple species might evolve like that again. The cats, you know, wild cat, kind of look like a saber-toothed thing, but I'm guessing they're the descendants of cougars or something. That's just my guess. Could be just a new one they just made just for the sake of it. It, of course, is going to go after people, but wild cats do that anyway, unless even ones that are raised around humans, you know, they're still wild. And you see some, I think they kind of look like tapirs or pigs or something. That was nice. You see them just quickly. And that's about it that we see for them, but they're interesting. And before we get too far from evolution, the thing with humans, having lived on another planet for 1,000 years, I do like that they touch on the humans would have changed in a minor way. And what that is that apparently while on Earth now, like I didn't catch how long, I guess 6 hours or something, you have to take this one inhaler thing and, you know, spray it into your mouth in order to stand breathing the air on Earth. I didn't catch what the explanation was, but I don't really need an explanation to figure out what it is. Obviously, 1,000 years of being away from the planet, there's going to be two things happening. One, the planet is going to slowly heal itself, so either the oxygen level is probably different, once you factor out the pollution thing and humans living on this planet for several thousand years already, it's going to probably, the ratio to oxygen, nitrogen is probably going to be a little bit different, to the point where probably humans could survive on it, but not that long. You know, kind of like how in the Predator movies, we see that, like in Predator 2, we see that the Predator, he can survive with Earth's atmosphere, but you see him with that one oxygen mask thing. Probably a similar concept. They can survive for a temporary amount of time, but then eventually they have to get their own natural level. And the other thing being, and the other reason, since they lived on a different planet for 1,000 years, they have adapted to a different atmosphere. You know, it's kind of similar to what we see in Man of Steel when Kal-El goes into the Kryptonian ship. He's not used to the atmosphere, even though that's his home planet's atmosphere. He's used to Earth's atmosphere, so same concept. Only difference is, unlike Kal-El, we don't fall over and start coughing up blood. Now, as you could probably already guess, I don't really recommend this film unless you like some of M. Night's previous films, or you just want to watch it because you thought the trailer looked at least like semi-interesting. But to say the best thing about this film is how it presents how humans would change a little bit in 1,000 years away from Earth and how things on Earth would change. And also it's good to see Will Smith in another movie. But other than that, the major drag point on this film is that it didn't need to be a sci-fi film. Even though it's interesting as a sci-fi thing, they could have kept it as a just straight up film. And Jaden Smith is not that good of an actor in this film. Those are the things that... Mostly Jaden, I'd say, is the biggest thing. The other one's kind of a minor... I'd say is more of a nitpick. But Jaden, he really drags the film down. If they had a better actor and also paced out the dialogue and some of the stuff a little bit better, the film would have gone off a little bit better. If there's one thing that kind of balances it out, at least while watching it, but not, giving a whole score for it, it's the score, which I want to check real quick, see who does the score. Should have guessed, James Newton Howard. Now, this is not his best score, but at times it does kind of make up for the emotion that's not there with the actors. Mostly with Jaden, like one scene where he looks at a dead bird that saved him. Which just made me think of another interesting thing. Apparently, at least in that part of Earth, at night, it freezes over. So it makes me wonder, is Earth entering another ice age, or did it just come out of another ice age? Or did something change on Earth with the planet healing itself from mankind's actions? Just a thought. Anyway, my rating for After Earth, just based on probably what I do like about it, in all honesty, probably 2.5 out of 5 stars. Like I said already, don't really recommend it.